Hi, my name is Denora Segovia, and today I'll be going over my senior project, which is on the design and fabrication of silicone micro nanowires through thermal oxidation. Dr. Yoon is my technical advisor, and I am a senior in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering here at the University of Utah. So today I'll be going over the applications of how nanowires are used, fabrication method used of thermal oxidation, characterizations that were used of scanning electron microscopy and using the NanoSpec 3000, future projects that can come from my senior project, along with my references, acknowledgements, and contact information. Nanowires have a wide variety of applications. I specifically looked at how they're used in biosensors. Nanowires are considered as key nanomaterials because of their electrical controllability for accurate measurements and chemical-friendly surface for various sensing applications. They have been used in DNA sequencing, looking at proteins, pH sensing, drug discovery, and viruses. For example, this is an experiment of how it's been used in drug discovery. So silicone nanowires are, what they did was they attached them to enzymes. Enzymes act as a switch. So to turn them on, they bind with ATP. And to turn them off, they need to bind with something else, for example, a drug. Gleevec is a drug used specifically for to stop leukemia cells from reproducing. So enzymes, when they're turned on, they can cause cells to replicate or have a variety of other functions. So what the silicone nanowires do is they're able to sense if these enzymes bind with ATP or if they bind with the drug, for example, this Gleevec. From there, they can then see if this medication is effective enough and binds with enough enzymes to stop the production of these mutated cells, these bad cells. So for my experiment, I'm looking at the specifically at the electrical and optical properties of silicon, but specifically at the micro and nano scale. Silicon has good electrical and optical properties because it has an indirect band gap, and specifically the band gap being 1.12 electron volts. It's also very abundant and is very cost effective as well. Another thing is that it also has unique luminescence properties at that nano and micro scale, which is great to add to the wide variety of applications that silicon can be used for. For my project, I specifically used thermal oxidation to learn how to be able to decrease that diameter of those micro and nano pillars. For thermal oxidation to be used, it has specific parameters that can then be changed or modified, specifically gas flow, temperature, and time. For my experiments, I maintained the gas flow at 70 psi, the temperature at 1000 degrees Celsius, and I varied the time. This is just an example, or this is actually an image of what the thermal oxidation furnace looks like in the lab. The setup, this is the furnace here. Inside, it has a quartz tube similar to what this would look like. I am then able to place the sample inside of that quartz tube, heat up the furnace up to that 1000 degrees Celsius, and run that thermal oxidation process. The way that this works here is that nitrogen, I set that nitrogen at that 70 psi. It flows through into the water at which is heated up, and that water vapor flows through this tube here into the oxidation furnace. And that vapor flow can then produce that silicon dioxide layer. So what is wet thermal oxidation? Wet thermal oxidation is the production or the growth of silicon dioxide onto a silicone substrate. So for example, the silicone substrate here is a trenchous sample. I place that into the thermal oxidation furnace, into that quartz tube, heat up that furnace to 1000 degrees, allow that water vapor to flow through, and a silicon dioxide layer is then produced, is then grown. Then from there, what I can do is that I can then take that into the nanofab, remove the silicon dioxide layer using hydrofluoric acid, HF, and now these trenches are now thinner and smaller. So for my experiments and specifically the fabrication process, I had to make sure that these samples were clean. So I was trained in the NanoFab to be able to run RCA1 and RCA2 cleaning, as well as learning how to use that HF acid. I also, to be able to do the characterization, the measurements of the silicon dioxide layer, I used the NanoSpec 3000 and was trained on that. Here on the right is just an image of me using that. That's able to then measure that silicon dioxide layer that has been grown on that silicone substrate. I also created a thermal oxidation standard of operations and video so that in the future other students that work in Dr. Yoon's lab are able to easily use this furnace and be able to know step by step how to run this process. I also learned how to use a scanning electron microscope. This is important because it allows for high resolution imaging at the nano and micro scale, which is what I was using in my experiments. I not only learned how to use the SEM, but I also learned the theory behind how the SEM actually works, specifically looking at how the detectors work and looking at how to do simulations. So the SEM has the backscattered electron detector, which looks at the composition of the sample, and then the secondary electron detector, which looks at more of the surface detail. For all of the imaging that I did, I used the secondary electron detector. I also learned how to do those Monte Carlo simulations, which allows me to see the interaction volume of the electrons into the substrate that I'm using, into the sample that I'm using. Here to the right is two images looking at how that interaction volume can change depending on the tilt. I also learned how to use the energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy. That's a great addition as well, just so that I can then, if I then use different samples that have different elements in them, I can then learn or understand which elements are inside of that sample. So for the experiments, what I did was I ran the thermal oxidation process on both planar and trenches samples. That way I could see how the silicon dioxide layer is growing on two different types of surfaces. I also looked at the micropillars and looking ahead into how this can be used in nanowires. So looking at the trenches sample, these are some SEM images that I was able to get with the help of Dr. Yoon. This is the trenches sample after already been through the thermal oxidation process. As you can see here, this white area is that silicon dioxide layer. This is just a closer image here to the right of how, and the white area is that silicon dioxide layer. As you can see here, it's being uniformly grown onto that trenches sample, which is good because then I can then use this for those micropillars and nanowires. Here is a graph of the rate of growth on the planar sample specifically for time versus that silicon dioxide thickness. As you can see here, this is growing at a pretty steady rate. The growth rate is, I was able to conclude that it is about 3.4 nanometers per minute. I ran the thermal oxidation process from 15 minutes up to 90 minutes. As you can see, the 90 minutes is a possible outlier. Further analysis and further experiments need to be done at these times, and also just more at this time as well, to see if this is an outlier or if this is how the growth rate actually is, the growth rate at this specific time. This is an example of this is the trenches graph that I was able to create here. The growth rate is about that 3.5 nanometers per minute, which is very similar to the planar sample, which is good. This shows that it is growing uniformly. I was using the NanoSpec 3000. I measured the top part of the trenches to get these measurements. I also ran measurements on the planar parts of the trench samples, so where this red dot is at, just that area. This just to also see if the silicon dioxide layer was growing uniformly on the full surface of this trench sample here. And as you can see from the growth rate, from the values, it is very similar to the trenches and planar sample. Again, the growth rate is 3.5 nanometers per minute on this graph specifically. So looking here to comparing these two graphs, you can see that they're very similar. Let me go ahead and just move this here. You can see that they're very similar growth rates as well, which is a good sign because then I can use this again for that micro and nano pillars. I was also able to get some imaging, some SEM images of micropillars that were created, fabricated by somebody in Dr. Yoon's lab. These are great reference images to be able to have so that once the thermal oxidation process is run on these micropillars, I can have a reference and measurements of what they looked like before, as well as once the diameter has decreased. This also just shows great detail of what the surface actually looks like of the fabricated micropillars. So I was able to run the thermal oxidation process once on the silicone micropillars at 40 minutes. You can see that white area there is that silicon dioxide layer. And then again, the next process for this would be to then remove the silicon dioxide layer using HF, and then running this process over and over again, and then looking at those electrical and optical properties. This can be done using photoluminescence. Another future project that can come from this, from the work that I've done, is running thermal oxidation on these silicone nanowires, and then from there using gold or annealing this with gold, and then looking at how the gold particles or how the gold interacts with these nanowires, and then also looking at the electrical and optical properties of the gold inside of the nanowires. This was also an image that I was able to obtain with the help of Dr. Yoon. So in conclusion, for my senior project, I was able to use the fabrication method of thermal oxidation to be able to learn how to change the shape and size of micro and nano pillars. I was able to use the SEM and NanoSpec 3000 to characterize the thermal oxidation process that I did run. And then from there, be able to find the growth rate of the silicon dioxide layer using the furnace in Dr. Yoon's lab. Again, that being about 3.4 nanometers per minute. And then from this information that I was able to get from this, then the future projects that can come from this is using photoluminescence to measure those optoelectrical properties on the trenches samples, as well as using them to measure the properties on silicone nanowires and micropillars once the thermal oxidation process has been done, and optimizing that optimization of thermal oxidation for those silicone nanowires or silicone micropillars. Here are my resources, and I would like to acknowledge and thank Dr. Yoon for all of the help that she gave me throughout my senior project. Also, Young and David, who work in Dr. Yoon's research group, for all of their help as well. The NanoFab staff for the training and for allowing me to use the facilities, as well as the University of Utah Office of Undergraduate Research. And the work was also supported and funded from the capstone programs here at the University of Utah. If you do have any further questions, I'd be happy to go ahead and answer those for you. Here's my contact information. And I would like to thank you for your time in listening to my presentation.